It's another way I could die. And when I speak of dying, I think what I'm trying to say is enter the dying process. And of course, I don't necessarily have control over that. But, when we're born, we are already starting to die. Even though we're growing, we're becoming a day closer to death with each day that we live. Reminded of when I used to work on a memory care unit, and everyone on the floor had some type of dementia, some more severe than others. But there was this one lady who was probably in her 80s, and she was physically very active, in good shape. But her husband had been assigned to our floor also. Even though he had no memory issues, it was to keep them together as a couple because they'd been married probably 60 plus years. And he was a retired researcher. Not sure what she did for a living, but he was physically unable to walk and get around, even though his mind was sharp. So her mind was basically being eaten up by dementia, and his body was being physically eaten up by whatever ailment he had. So he was in a wheelchair, and we had to actually lift him with a Horia lift out of bed to put him in a wheelchair so that he could get around. And she would push him around in the wheelchair because, again, she was physically in great shape. So a couple of times, or more than a couple of times, when they were assigned to me, I would help get him up out of bed, and he would thank me. And then she would take over and wheel him around up and down the hall in the corridors. And then when it was time to eat, she may be in the facility in the dining hall ready to eat, but we'd have to go find him because she had pushed his wheelchair to a particular area. Maybe he was in the corner and left him there because her mind again was she couldn't remember what she'd done with him and that she had him in the first place. So we'd have to go find him, and he'd be with his face against the wall, and he'd be smiling knowing that she was not in the right mind, but also he wanted to be with her. So it was kind of cute in a way, but also sad that she could not remember where she'd put her husband. And so when we'd go get him, she'd come grab the wheelchair and take it from us. And this is the same lady that would go up in and out of the rooms of other residents and take their clothes and put them in her dresser because she thought they were her clothes. And then when we tried to take the clothes from her to give them back to the right resident, she would get mad with us, and we'd have to negotiate and sometimes be a little firm because they were not her items again. And so I remember when his health began to deteriorate, he died. I'm trying to remember if part of her could conceive the fact that her husband had died. And I think for a minute I saw sorrow, and she'd walk up and down the house like she was maybe looking for him. And then when he had his service, of course, she was not in healthy enough mind to even attend the service. So I'm not sure if she understood that her husband had died. But it seemed part of her seemed to sense something had changed because she would go looking, roaming up and down the halls as if she were looking for something that was missing, that was dear to her. Um, this could be one way, right? We could deteriorate, and would I even know if I were headed down a dementia road that my mind was deteriorating? Would a part of my brain start to deteriorate that actually was controlled my consciousness to realize that I was deteriorating? So in other words, what I argue when people said, Charlie, you're no longer doing this, or you're forgetting to do this, or my loved one said, hey, this needs to be addressed. And even if I were aware of it, what could I do to stop it or slow it down? And there are people that get these diagnoses every day, right? Alzheimer's, some type of dementia, and now they're on a scary road as they deal with their family and try to, will they recognize their family members in the near future? That has to be scary to start that journey. Certainly, we don't want to go down that road if we had a choice, but many of us don't. Could be my fate. It could start that road towards death. This is just one way to just face it. And in these videos, again, I just try to face the reality of not only what I may be dealing with, but what many people and family members are suffering with as we negotiate this road called life. We have no control sometimes over how we will exit. I just try to give us ways to confront the fact that certain things will come our way. Hope you stay tuned. Take care. Bye-bye.